Hi, I'm Bill Ritchie, and today I'm going to be testing this brand new mini Halfwood press. This is number 48, and it's a special press because it's all ebony and it's on its way to Venezuela. I'll be printing on this press later, but first I have to get my plate ready and explain that for the first time I'm going to be doing a monotype becoming a dry point. My materials that I have set up here on this table for monotype are some ink modifiers. This is 470 oil, Miracle Gel Reducer, various kinds of modifiers, plate, oil. I'm using all oil-based inks. These are Charbonnel etching inks. I have Q-tips, a brayer, talcum powder to keep my hands clean, newsprint for later on, and I put out a few colors here and a couple of tools. When you do monotypes, it's really a kind of painting on a plate. This is the plate I will have. It's just a blank 22 gauge copper plate. Monotype is a kind of painting. I make an image on the plate and I run it through the press once or twice or as many times as I want to, but I can never go back and repeat it. That makes it a monotype. A monoprint, on the other hand, is when you do have an image on the plate, like this one, and you decide for whatever reason to print different colors, different variations, but every one of them is different, and so they're called monoprints. And that's the difference between monotypes and monoprints. The first thing I'm going to do, and as I said, every monotype is different because they're like paintings, is I'm going to put a little modifier in my ink. And I'm choosing to use what's called a 470 oil. The purpose is to make these etching inks a little softer so they flow better. Also, in this DVD, I'll be speeding up the process because our main point is to test the press, not to make prints. But I'm getting two things done at once. So later I'll use a speeded up technique with the magic of video and get it done that way. I like to start with a thin coat of plate oil on the blank plate because it creates a kind of even overall tone. So I'm just going to spread that around, and then I'm going to wipe off most of it. Okay, I'll go with that for now. It's time to set up the press. This is an intaglio press. It's made for printing etchings. It uses two blankets, and they all pass through under tremendous pressure and prints the plate. To get it adjusted, first I tighten the pressure screws all the way down until they're touching the press bed, and then I count backwards and raise the roller back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 6 full turns, 12 half turns. And then start the blankets under the roller. There are two blankets, as I said, and they're different thickness. One is a thin wool blanket called the sizing catcher, and the other is a woven, slightly thicker blanket. After I got it under the roller, I tighten it back down. And this is where practice is the key to knowing how much pressure to put on. This is a plastic coating on the bed and it will protect the bed from getting scratched when I'm using it. The paper I'm using is an Italian paper called Fabriano, and I dampened it ahead of time by soaking it in water for 15 or 20 minutes. And then I took it out and put it between, I blotted off the extra water, and I put it between pieces of newspaper just to keep it damp. Now I'm going to be printing twice on this piece on this copper, so I need to keep this paper damp, so I'll be using this again. I'm going to turn the press so the camera can see better. And that's the first color for this monotype. I'm going to put this back in the damp book and then do some dry point. Now, dry point. Dry point is kind of etching, but it doesn't use acid. That's why they call it dry point. Traditionally, we use a dry point needle, but anything works. You can cut it with a knife if you want to. I can still see a little bit of the ghost of my image, so that's what I'm going to use as a guideline when I make my dry point. I can check my progress by putting in some ink. Just rub some black ink into it, and then begin wiping it the way we do wipe a traditional dry point print. Now I'm going to show another kind of tool. This is going to make a loud noise, but it's an engraving tool, and I'll turn it on and make a loud noise, and I can show you how to use that kind of a tool. Okay. This kind of ink works well if it's warmed. I have a little hot plate here, a little heating iron. Now, it should be obvious that I could go back and add more lines. I could bring more colors. I can clean the plate off entirely. Of course, the lines are there now, so all the prints that come after this would be called mono prints because there's a definite line that can be repeated. So that's the end of the test process for number 48. Thank you for watching.